Derby Day delight. I was hungover until about 8 p.m. Monday night, but we're better now. So no better time than let's do a happy hour.
Yeah, hello. Welcome back to the United Happy Hour, the show where I'm not sure I remember what I saw last, Pauly. I don't remember if I last saw United lose away or Liverpool win at home. I'm not quite sure. That's where I'm at the moment. Little side note on Liverpool, interesting little stat. Grimsby Town, who sit bottom of the Football League pyramid, bottom of League Two, have scored more home goals than Liverpool this season. In fact, I think there's over half of the clubs that play in the Football League have scored more home goals than Liverpool in 2021, which is an absolutely incredible stat. And I just wanted to mention that because my best friend Ben, who watches this show every week, he's a Grimsby Town supporter. So I hope that one makes you smile, mate. And I know it's been a tough few months for you and a tough season, but keep smiling, and hopefully better days are just round the corner. Pauly, where do we start? It was 21-0, Manchester United away wins, 21-0, Man City's win streak. Somebody's had to go, and it was, well, pleasantly surprising for me. It was Man City's that went. And look, what's your thoughts on this, Pauly? What's your thoughts on the derby?
Didn't we say it at the end of I think I said it to you after the show, and you tried to call me out on it, but saying, hey, nobody thinks that we have a puncher's chance in this game, which means that's usually when we come out and win games like against City. You know, last year, Tottenham and then City in the space of 3 days, everybody thought Ollie was about to be sacked. We weren't playing that well going into, certainly not in the League Cup when we won 1-0. That game we didn't deserve to win, so we'll throw that one out. But even going into the game against March, we weren't playing well. We had the week before, we had been run off the pitch by Everton, and we come out and played a brilliant game. And this again, just a brilliant match with a brilliant plan, and the players went out there and executed it to a T. I just wrote about all the different things that Ollie did, how Pep just didn't. We'll get to Pep in a minute. The biggest key was, I thought, Bruno Fernandes staying in his position, holding his ground the entire match, never over-pressing, which is something he has a tendency to do. And if it doesn't work, it can cause a lot of problems. But he stayed home. And it was brilliant, to the point that United were wasteful in this match. They threw away some really good opportunities, and you still came away being like, no, they thoroughly did it.
Yeah, no, it was unbelievable, to be fair, Pauly, just to think about some of the, not even chances. I mean, there was a couple of more big chances that they didn't take that they had, but even just situations where they were on the counter-attack, people just being wasteful before it even got to that sort of final movement, final pass. Interesting comment here from Hella. Thanks for joining us, Hella. Good to see you as always. I know you watch very often. So proud of the way they played. Ollie's got Pep sussed, and I think it's an interesting one point, because I think certainly in the game, strangely at the Etihad, we seem to be living in Manchester City's head rent-free, because I can't really think why else we would be doing so well there, because obviously you look at the two teams, and Pep doesn't have a problem beating United. I think he's still 4-3 over Ollie, but obviously those 4 victories, I think, have actually come at Old Trafford, which is quite strange. But obviously at home, it's as if they've been taken by surprise at United. And when I
3-3 now.
You're 3-3, yeah.
He beat him in the first year at Old Trafford, then he beat him in the League Cup twice at Old Trafford.
Yeah.
And then 3-3-1.
When I look at the nature of the 3 games as well, Pauly, especially this last one, I think we've hit Pep with something different. Just when he thinks that he may have got a plan against us, we've done something different. And I was impressed with the way that United beat Man City in a lot of ways at the weekend. Yes, they beat them in the classic sort of transition on the counter, looking dangerous like that. But there was times when United had the ball as well, Paulie, and looked very comfortable in possession, albeit not long periods of the game, but there were periods in which United were knocking the ball around. And actually, you could see the confidence draining from the Man City players, the energy draining from them. They wasn't expecting United playing the way they were. And I don't think there's any better example than that, than the way that United started. Let's talk about that start, Paulie, because at first, well, even the first 30 seconds where you get the penalty, the intention from the start is there from United to push up and be aggressive. And that's what I like most about this. And it proves that you don't have to do it for 90 minutes, Paulie, but if you can do it for periods in a game, you can win games even against the better sides.
Yeah. At first, I'm reading the comments and I'm loving them because it's the first time I feel like I'm on the same page as everybody in the comments. You all saw you don't need me to tell you what happened. You saw it. And like you just said, that first 30 seconds, Maguire pushing up beyond McTominay just to make sure that Gabriel Jesus doesn't have any space. And then Fred's able to trap him. We turn around, we get the ball to Martial, run at their defenders. Martial wins the penalty. It's the fourth penalty Martial has won this year. By far the most on the team. Probably the most in the league, but I haven't checked that. Yeah. It's actually the sixth in all competitions. 6 in a year is absurd. Nobody in the last, under Ollie, no one's won more than 4 in a season. And he is won 6 now. 4 in the league. I did text you. I think I texted you. I was sitting there freaking out being like, look, I remember the last time Martial won a penalty in the first minute of a game against the top 6. And I sat there for the next few minutes just being like, just get me to 3 minutes and have the score still be 1-0 and get me to 8 minutes and have the score not be 2-1.
Yeah.
And right after the goal,
you didn't message me that, by the way, Paulie. So it must be one. I
thought I did.
I don't get much attention from you during games. Look, for people watching, I hear a lot from Paulie, obviously, in the week prepping for this show and at the weekend before games. But he's very much like me. When the game's on, you like to watch it and you like to concentrate on it, don't you, mate? Yeah.
And after the goal, they kept going with that press that caused a couple of turnovers. They got a chance. The ball fell to Luke Shaw, and he put it on his right foot, and he shot right at Ederson. And you just think he went into the dressing room at halftime being like, guys, imagine if you put that on my left foot. And they were like, we can only dream. But after 5 minutes, they scaled back. They were like, all right, that's enough. Now you think we're going to press you, but we're not. And they suddenly dropped into this defense that I really only, when I was sitting with people watching this game, and the way I could describe it, not amongst Americans, so we all get it, but in the NFL, when you play a base defense, it's really like you have your 4 linemen who rush the passer, then everybody else kind of matches up. You have 5 guys to match their 5 receivers. If they only send 4 guys out, then your middle linebacker kind of sits in the middle, and then you have 2 safeties over the top to help out. And I was like, that's kind of what we're doing here. Like, we're sending Martial around to the defenders just to let them know that somebody's coming and that they don't have all the time in the world. But we're not trying to win the ball back from them. We're just trying to prevent them from passing to Gundogan and De Bruyne. That's all we're trying to do. You could pass it around the outside all you want, but we're just making sure you can't pass it to these guys. And after about 21 minutes into the match, John Stones got the ball and he just ran forward. Rashford held his position to make sure he couldn't pass. Fred actually almost jumps out of the way to make sure he still cuts off the passing angle to De Bruyne, but essentially lets John Stones walk through. And that's when it clicked for City. They were like, hey, if we just carry the ball, we're golden here. And the rest of the first half became nervy because United couldn't get the ball. And when you're just defending like that, your legs get heavy, you get tired, and you could tell every time United won the ball back for the rest of the half, they'd take a heavy touch. They'd miss-hit the pass. They'd be like, oh, I'm just going to dribble by this guy. It's real easy. And they wouldn't. And this was all mental fatigue.
Yeah. Paulie, can I just say, though, I think it's a really good point that you make. But I think what threw Pep here, and I've got to be honest with you, it's when you look at that team that lined up for United at the weekend, with the exception of Dean Henderson, who wasn't at the club at the time, and I think Bruno Fernandes, who also wasn't at the club.
9 players started the
9 players were the same team that went to City, and I mean, they did do a counter-attacking job on that occasion last season. If you remember, I think it was just before Christmas of the last season. I think it was about early December time. United went there. They beat them 2-1, scored two early-ish goals on the counter, took City by surprise. And I think when you see that team again, the temptation is to think, well, this is the way that they're going to, they've done it before. Plus, you're forgiven for thinking that Ollie will try something more than once because, we have criticised him for that as well. And I think I just think it threw Pep and Man City. And you got the lazy journalism on television where they were saying De Bruyne has had a sloppy start to the game. I think you've got to give credit to United for that, Paulie. I think they got about De Bruyne. Like you said, they cut his passing angles off. Probably not his best start to a game, no, but I think you have to give United immense credit for that. I think they stifled a lot of their great players early on.
Yeah, wherever De Bruyne went, Fred was right on top of him. And wherever Ilkay Gundogan went, Scott McTominay was right there, unless he pushed forward, in which case you were able to see that one of the things we criticize United about is sometimes it seems like there's a lack of communication, but you were able to see McTominay shouting at Lindelof, hey, Gundogan's pushing up, we're switching off. I'm going to stay in midfield, and you pick up the man. And when Gundogan dropped, they were shouting again. And at times, Gundogan found some space, but for the most part, wherever he went, it was cut off. And City couldn't generate anything from it. But this was okay because this is how they play. They know that they're going to wear you out eventually. They know that the chance will come. And I'll be able to pull up a perfect demonstration of this was.
I think you're absolutely spot on, Paul. I mean, I just you could almost see the shell shock in some of the players' eyes of Man City and even Pep. It was almost what is this like? The way that United have approached it. Not only the fact that they've gone there and approached it in this way, but everyone knew, Paulie, and you can play it down as much as you will when you support opposing teams. United were coming into this off the back of some poor form, negative feel around the club. Obviously, Man City couldn't be in better form. And I think they were just totally taken aback by the way United went about it.
Yeah, it was, you could see on this picture on the screen that's up there, it looks like Kevin De Bruyne is ghosted into some space here. But United are like, that's fine. You could be in this space because there's no way for John Stones to get the ball to you. If he passes to you, Bruno can lunge in to intercept that. Fred is there to read it and intercept that. So De Bruyne seems open, but United have created have blocked off the passing lane to prevent the ball from getting here. Before I make my next point, let me just bring up Alan commenting, did someone struggle with technology again and post the wrong time? Beyond possible, Alan. If I did, I apologize. City played this way in the first half because they knew they'll get their chance. They'll get a chance to score one, maybe two. And in the second, and United were screwed, but when they got to half, they were lucky to get to halftime. Maybe not lucky, but halftime came at a time when they were leggy, they were dogged, and you know this is where Ali made an adjustment and said, "What have we criticized him for in the last few games against the Big Six? It's too conservative. Why is it too conservative? Because he doesn't let his fullbacks go forward." And
Ollie was the first person to admit that as well. If you watch his post-match interview on MUTV, Paulie, he states that they were playing on the result too much and he didn't like it. They were playing on the fact that they were 1-0 up and he just wanted them to be a bit braver, in that last 10 minutes, quarter of an hour of the first half. And I think that's obviously the message that he gave to the players because it was interesting. The first 15 minutes of the second half started very much like the first 15 minutes of the first half. And I think he just told the players, look, we're 1-0 up here. We don't play on the result. Go and get another one. There's opportunities for you here. And the players heeded that advice. Yeah, and we know in games like this, Bruno Fernandes is going to be man-marked out of the game. The exact thing that we just did to Gundogan and De Bruyne, City are doing to Bruno. So when you play in these games, you need your second-best creator to take a load off that. And this season, that's Luke Shaw.
But in these big games, we haven't been allowing the fullbacks to get forward, and therefore we've been struggling. So in the second half, what did Ollie do? He said, well, I'm not just going to let my fullbacks go, because then Fred and McTominay have to cover for them. And if that happens, then they're not covering De Bruyne. But he said, but I can let one of them go. And that's what he did. You look at their average positions. Luke Shaw starts pushing up, but Wan-Bissaka is as far back as can be. He took 2 touches in the attacking third. He never got forward. No. So you always had 3 men back. So this was a different wrinkle. And because of that, United are at their best when Shaw gets the ball and he drives forward. And that's exactly what happened. He takes the ball, he drives forward, lays it off to Rashford. Rashford gives it back to him. And the whole team's like, hey, now it fell to your left foot. Show us what you can do. And he puts it in the net. Yeah. And that was when it was game over. It was 2-0. And I went, there's 40 minutes left in this game. That was the least stressful 40 minutes of a derby that I can remember. I said it right at the time. That's it. The game's over. And
it's interesting. I was nervous, but it was one of those games, Paulie, when I don't normally watch a game back afterwards, but I watch this back, and when I take myself out of that experience, I'm thinking, well, why was I nervous? Because if you look at City, really, I think Sterling had quite a glaring chance where he obviously fresh air kick, the ball comes across, and he probably should be putting that away if he's a good finisher, but he doesn't. But aside from that, Paul, there wasn't really much to concern you, and that's why I don't know why I got myself in such a state. But then again, I'll get myself in a state watching United, whether they're playing Man City or I don't know, name me another city, Sheffield, any city, but it's just like Colchester United, it doesn't make any difference. I get nervous watching a team, but when you take yourself out of that situation, you just think to yourself, actually, when you look at it, it was quite a comfortable last 40 for United.
It's easy to do that in hindsight because City don't score. So when you watch the match back and you see that cross to the back post that, oh, they almost got there, and you freak out when you watch it live, and then you watch it back and you're like, oh, it wasn't even that close. He wasn't really there. And it's not going to go in. I watched this in real time saying this game is over. There's not been a single game other than Southampton, 9-0. Okay. And Sheffield United. I remember saying during the Sheffield United match when they were 3-1 up, being like, I'm bored watching a match because for the first time I can remember, we are just seeing one out and this thing is in the bag. And then United still went ahead and made that interesting and almost dropped points. In a derby, I've been nervous. I've been a nervous wreck for all 90 minutes for at least 10 something years. And this time we were partying. We were like, this is over. And I was doing it in real time. And here's why. Here's why. Have you ever seen the movie Miracle? Probably not, because you're from the UK.
No, I haven't. You did message me about this, though, Paulie. Yeah, carry on.
There is a scene in the movie Miracle, which is about the 1980 USA hockey team and how they beat the Soviets in the Olympics, where the clock's winding down of the game. The US are up 4-3, and the coach turns to his assistant coach and he says, "Let me know when they pull their goalie." So they can get the extra attacker and try to score. He goes, let me know when that happens. I want fresh legs on the ice when they pull him. And the clock winds down, and the Russians they keep putting the pressure on, and they look, there's under a minute left. This is the time when teams will do it. And the goalie's still in there. And the assistant coach comes over and he looks at him and he goes, he's not pulling him. And he looks over at the Russian coach and he looks back and he says, he doesn't know what to do. And this is the Russians who they had won all 5 of their previous games. They had won the gold medal in the last 4 Olympics. Under this coach, they had won they had lost 1 game in the World Championships in the last 2 years. So they had played about 20 something international games in the last 2 years. And they had lost 1 of them. Yeah. He's the coach of CSKA in Moscow, which is the same team that's granted the national team is playing at a club level, but they demolish everybody. And this guy ended up having God only knows how much success over the next decade. He's a really good coach. Yeah. Doesn't know what to do when he's down a goal because he never is. Yeah. It doesn't make him a bad coach, but all of a sudden he's in a situation that he's never been in before. Yeah. And that's where Pep found himself. 2-0 down. He didn't know what to do.
No, we took them to a place. That's what I say, Paul. You could see it wasn't just in their actions, Paul. You could see their expressions on their faces. That's how obvious it was. So, I wouldn't say Pep's the best at hiding his emotions, because we know he's always active on the touchline one way or another, angry or happy. But the shell shock on his face was obvious for everyone to see. Now, Paulie, I just want to get to a couple of comments before we move on to what's on social media. One's coming here from Mike FPL. So much braver positioning from our back four, refreshing, needed for the next games. Now, I picked this one up, Paulie. It caught my eye because I think I messaged you about this, how we approach this game and how we are approaching games now. And I think, we'll have to wait another year, 2 years to see if it's right, if Ollie's still in charge. But this could be the tale of 2 0-0s at Anfield, Paulie, because we saw a manager a couple of years ago in Jose Mourinho go to Anfield and draw 0-0. Okay? Almost a year to the day after that, he was sacked because he went back to Anfield and he lost 3-1. And you feel like he went to Anfield and he played that famous 0-0 game. No, it wasn't a year. It was a lot over a year, but it was a season after. He played that Anfield game, drew 0-0, took a United team to Anfield who were in the ascendancy at the time, playing better than the Liverpool team. And I never really felt that he learned from that. Whenever he approached any other big game with United, you would see United do the same things. They'd drop back into back sixes. Rashford would spend more time at full back than he would attacker. And it went on for another 12 months and Jose lost his job. I'm wondering, we saw a similar sort of 0-0 in performance from Ollie at Anfield earlier this season, or just a couple of months ago, obviously, in December. But since then, he's had 2 games against what you call the traditional Big Six, Chelsea and Man City. And I think there's been a concerted effort. And Arsenal. And especially in the Chelsea and the Man City, even though it didn't work against Chelsea, I think there was a concerted effort, Paulie, to try and be a bit braver in these games. And by braver, I just mean, like that comment says there, just positionally moving that back four up 5-10 yards. Now, is it just coincidence, Paulie, or do you think the same? Has something clicked after that Anfield game that thinking, look, if I don't become more positive in these games, I'm going to suffer the same fate as Jose?
I think it's a little bit. I think he's real, I think the 3-2 against Liverpool a week later at Old Trafford helped.
Yeah.
But I think it's also been a bit of circumstance, was because he did go out there against Arsenal the next week and did the same thing.
Yeah.
But then against Chelsea, you could play a high line because they put out Mason Mount and Olivier Giroud. You don't have to worry about them bursting in behind you. And against City, you could play that high line because you want to play very compact, because you don't have to worry about them running in behind you. That's not what they're going to do. And their the way that they approached this defensively was very similar to how they did it last season. The same formation. We know 9 of the players were the same. So the only outfield player who's different is Bruno, as opposed to Wingard. And last year was a little bit different. It was still, hey, we'll let you bring the ball up to midfield. That creates space in behind you for us to hit you on the counter, but we're going to press you in a way. Last year, they pressed them in a way that to make them pass the ball left. And they did that because they're like, just feed it to Raheem Sterling because we have Wan-Bissaka there. You're not going to beat us there. This year it was do whatever you want as long as you don't go to Gundogan and De Bruyne. We're not going to let you beat us there.
Yeah.
So there were minor differences there, but City are a team that everything is about control and possession, etc. Don't worry. The chances will come. We just have to play our game. So when they went down 2-0, that was a shock to them because they're not built to. Now you need to be more direct. And
November the 28th, I think, was the last time they went behind at home, or the last time they conceded at home, Paulie. November the 28th. So in a season like this with so many games, a season like this with so many games in a short period of time, November 28th feels like a long, long time ago.
It had been 20 games since they went behind in the league when they went behind to Tottenham.
Yeah,
20 games. So this is a team that everything is, it doesn't matter if it's 0-0 in the 80th minute. Like they just know, trust us, it'll work eventually. And it has been. They've been generating enough chances to score 1 goal, and that's it. But when they're 2-0 down, you need to be more direct. And they didn't know how to do that because that's not how they play anymore. We see this in the NFL all the time. We see teams that have great running games who are really good. They win 13 out of their 16 games in the season. They're really good teams. But if they go behind early, they're done because they can't play from behind. They're a team that likes to control the clock and move. They don't get big plays. City didn't do it. And this comment from Hella is when I saw this happen, I was screaming and cheering and crazy. And I was just screaming, he doesn't know what to do. And that was it.
Pauly,
he brought on a right back, which was just, it seemed like the move of a manager saying, I need to make a change here because this isn't working, but I don't know what change to make. So I'm just going to make a like-for-like change here at right back. It's a not totally like-for-like. Walker is more of the wider overlapping fullback, but then he takes off Gabriel Jesus, who isn't a pure number 9, but he's kind of like having Anthony Martial at striker, but he's the only one that might be recognized as a striker. Takes him off to bring on Phil Foden, who's going to give you natural width from the left side, and move Raheem Sterling to the middle, which is being even more false 9 and more possession based. And your plan is you're going to get it wide and cross the ball to Raheem Sterling. That's your plan. They didn't know what to do. And he panicked.
No, I agree, Pauly, when you say that he didn't. And I've been consistent with that throughout the show. But what I will say is, ironically, I did think they looked a bit more dangerous when they did that. And I just wonder, from a Man City point of view, whether this was classic Pep again, where he was just trying to overcomplicate it before the game. This is what I mean about United going to the Etihad and it being difficult. Because if you look at Man City, when they've been successful this year and they've played really well, it's when they played with a false 9, Pauly. They haven't really used Jesus and Aguero much as a number 9 this season at all, but partly for injury and COVID and everything, but also tactically, he does like the idea of Sterling playing down the middle or De Bruyne with Foden playing wide. The only thing you would say is that obviously Cancelo would always start. And I do want to ask you about that, Pauly, because I think that's another thing where we need to put respect next to United's name. The job they did on João Cancelo, because people think he's a right back and therefore he's not integral. Let me tell you, the fullbacks are probably the most integral part of a Pep Guardiola team. And João Cancelo is having a fantastic season. And Manchester United are the only team, and I mean this when I say it, this season that I have seen keep someone like João Cancelo quiet. And that was a massive part of why they were successful. And that's credit to Luke Shaw and Wan-Bissaka, obviously, on their flanks, but also the 2 wide forwards. We agreed that Rashford wasn't great on the game, but what he did do, he did make an effort to track back. And same with Dan James on the other side. And it made it difficult for Cancelo. And I think that was part of why the plan worked as well.
Yeah, the front 3, Rashford, Bruno, James. So the 3 behind Martial were very narrow. And we know that City's fullbacks like to tuck in and get narrow next to Rodri. Well, now there's players there. So they don't have that space. And McTominay and Fred were, sticking to those midfielders like glue. So we did a fantastic job because those guys couldn't find space. And when they did get the ball, they had nowhere to go with it. And it made all their life very difficult. To go back to what you said before about City did look more threatening, and they did when Walker and Foden came on. They did. They were now creating a bunch of chances. The problem was they didn't have that natural finisher. How many times did we see it whip one to the back post and there's just nobody there? There was no natural player running who has those instincts, while Sergio Aguero is sitting on the bench. And it could be that if you bring on Aguero, you don't have the control and the possession base to create as many chances. But sometimes when what you're doing, there's the whole thing about possession and control, and the system will create your chances for you. But you can't change that at 70 minutes because that's the kind of thing that says over the course of a match, we'll come out on top. But in 20 minutes, when you need to just come on, that's when you have to just say, throw it on and throw everything at the kitchen sink from them and be direct. Remember, Chicharito was like a terrible footballer. He couldn't pass. He couldn't dribble. He couldn't do anything. He just had an uncanny ability of when he got the ball in the box, he scored. And that's why Fergie just didn't really like to start him, because he couldn't it was like playing with 10 men from the start. But when you were down a goal late and you put him on, or the score was level and you just were throwing everything forward, he was a very valuable asset. You had to do that. And Pep just didn't know. City were doing that from a creative standpoint, but they didn't have any of that natural finisher out there because you've got Raheem Sterling in the middle, he's not that player.
No, absolutely. And I think we did to City the reverse to what they did to us in the League Cup and what they tried to do to us when we play at Old Trafford. But I think when we play at Old Trafford, they try and force us wide. So they pack that middle, especially with Bruno Fernandes, number 10. They compact the middle so that United go wide where they haven't got dangers. Where United were making those outside areas packed so that City had to come inside where they didn't. They want to attack more down the wide, get into those channels, byline, pull it back. We all know the City pattern to play.
And City panicked because after that second goal, they opened up. And the game became much more back and forth. So United started getting a lot more breaks and transitions where they were insanely wasteful with them. Dan James shooting when he had passing options, not getting a good shot. Rashford trying to dribble by a guy. They were so wasteful. But City were getting transition. City were getting breaks too. But City weren't doing anything with them because that's not how City play. And Pep came out again after the Chelsea match at the beginning of January and said, we're back now to playing at our tempo. He said, we can't play these games where it goes back and forth. That's not us. We need to play at our tempo. And they panicked when it was 2-0 and they started playing this back and forth game, which just played into our hands, which is why I felt very confident. I was at 2-0, no matter how much time was left. It was, if we keep playing this way, we've got this. And in the last 10 minutes, it became a little bit more hectic because every single United match, the last 10 minutes, they've made us sweat. But Nemanja Matic came on and settled it down. That was a great sub. And United saw this one out very well.
Yeah. Paulie, I suppose all we can hope for from this really is that somebody uses that United performance as a blueprint now when they play against Man City, both home and away. And hopefully United can finish the season the way they did at the end of last season. One more comment I just want to read out.
The blueprint of win a penalty really early and hope you get to halftime at 0-0.
Yeah, I know what you mean. But there was other tactical things that United did there that we've talked about. Let's don't chuck everything away that we've just spent half an hour talking about. We've broken the game down quite well, Paulie. Look, there's just one more comment I want to read out before we move on to social media, Paulie, and have a look at what's on there. And I think it's a really good one to make. And NZZ said, to think both Shaw and Martial were fitness doubts prior. Someone mentioned there is a change in mentality in the players wanting to play for the team when before a little niggle would have meant sitting out. And to back this up, Paulie, there was a fantastic comment from Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, again in his post-match interview with MUTV, where he said, the players' careers, the players don't own their careers. The careers now are owned by Manchester United, and that's what he's trying to get across. He wants these players to give up their bodies, to give up their careers now to play for Manchester United. And I think that this is a shift in mentality, Paulie, because we've seen under previous regimes. I remember under Van Gaal and David Moyes, there was this suggestion that Van Persie was dictating when he was playing. Obviously, he got some injury issues. He was going to the manager and saying, look, I don't think my body's ready. I'm not good for this. We saw under Jose Mourinho in calling out players like Luke Shaw and Anthony Martial and Chris Smalling for not playing when they're injured, not injured, that's the wrong thing to say, but maybe when they're not quite 100%, not having that appreciation that sometimes you're not always going to be 100% when you play. You need to put your body on the line. But I think there has been that shift with Ollie over the last 2 years. I think you can see that where the players are more willing now, even when they're not feeling great, to get out on the pitch and put a shift in for him. Because I'll be honest with you, Paul, if that was a Jose Mourinho team that played at the weekend, I don't think Shaw and Martial play in that game. I think they go to him and they say, look, I don't feel up for this. Partly because they felt they could under that manager, but also because they probably weren't willing to risk it all. And I think that's another good point that NZZ makes there. And I think Ollie backed it up with what he said after the game.
It's funny you bring this up and you're as this huge positive about Ollie.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure out there will be people who go exactly the other way in that Ollie's ruining the players like this because Marcus Rashford knocks on his door every day and says, boss, I got to play. And he goes, yeah, but you picked up a little knock on your ankle. And he goes, I'm fine. I could play. And he runs him into the ground and he gets hurt again because he just needs a break. But Marcus Rashford's banging on his door every single game, every single day, being like, no, put me in the team. Put me in the team. I don't need a rest. I want to play. I want to help. Tony's hurt. I need to play. Cavani's hurt. I need to play. Yeah. But you're right. This is not a testament. I mean, it's a testament to Shaw and Martial and how they played. They were brilliant. I tweeted during the game, who is the non-Luke Shaw player, man of the match, and why is it Anthony Martial? They were our two best players. Yeah. It's a testament to Ollie, though, because of this culture that he has created. You bring up Jose Mourinho, who did not have a good relationship with these two players. And they were often on the outskirts, on the outside looking in, especially and dealing with injuries. And when you're in a situation like that, where your manager doesn't trust you at all, it's very easy to think my future is elsewhere. It's not going to work out for me at this club.
And therefore, why should I put my body on the line? If you know what I mean. There's not even a little subconscious thought, isn't there, in the back of your head? It's not obvious, but it's like a player when his contract's coming up to the end. We saw it after Project Restart, didn't we, Paulie? Players that were out of contract at June and weren't willing to finish off their seasons with their clubs because that risk of getting injured and therefore not being able to secure a new contract for this season. It's not even
don't want to put my body on the line. It's I can play. I'm 70% and I can play. But if I do that, if you're Anthony Martial and you do that and there's 15 games left and you play at 70%, now you're at 68% and you're just dwindling. And because of that, over the last 15 games, you're only able to score 2 goals. What team is coming to get you? But if you say, well, if I sit out 3 games and I only have 12 games left, but over those 12 games, I could score 7 goals. That's a much better when I'm fully fit. I'd rather do that because then my agent can go and find me another club because you just don't think it's going to work for you in this situation. But now you've got Ollie, who the players want to play for. They're ready to die for. I don't care about what might happen in the future. I am here to play for this team, for this squad, to help us get a win. I could play. It's it doesn't matter. I'm Anthony Martial. It doesn't matter if I score goals or not. It matters if I go out there and do my job and help other people score goals. And
Martial was a perfect example of what you're saying there, Paulie, because obviously we know he's been linked with maybe his future being decided in the summer, and it could be, he might not be a United player in the summer, but there was no part of him thinking about that in the derby. He was just thinking about how he could impose himself on that game to benefit his teammates. And I think under Jose, Paulie, just to add to that as well in particular, if you were going out there at 70% as well under Jose, there was a chance you'd probably put a 4 or a 5 out of 10 sort of rated performance in there, and then you'd be worried about what he'd have to say about you after the game.
And then you wouldn't play again.
Yeah, exactly. And that would also be in the back of your mind. But
this game...
but in terms of playing again, Paulie, Solskjaer is a ruthless there because we have a situation where actually, if a player goes to Ollie now and says, actually, Gaffer, I'm not sure I feel up to it, my body's not right.
He trusts him.
Ollie will play somebody else, and if that player plays well, they will stay in the team. Point. We're seeing a situation where David De Gea has gone back for the birth of his child, and whether people like it or they don't, there's every opportunity now that he may have lost the number 1 goalkeeper shirt with that move, and this is the ruthless side of Ollie as well.
Yeah, for sure. Although we won't get into that. Let's just this match was the microcosm of Anthony Martial's season. Anthony Martial has been doing the reason why he keeps playing and why you look at the starting 11 and Martial again, he's been terrible this season, is because he's been doing all the other things you want and making everything click. And this is something that I started looking into a lot more in depth this morning. I'll write about it later, but that's coming. As a left wing, when Cavani comes in and Martial goes out to the left wing, terrible. He's awful. Don't want him there. At this point, take Martial off, bring on Greenwood. You don't want Martial on the left wing. But as the striker, everything for United has been flowing better, even though Martial isn't scoring. He's winning penalties. He's getting fouled in areas that lead to shots more. United are scoring more goals when he's in there versus when Cavani's in there, because he's contributing up and down to the team. And everybody wants to go back to his effort and his work rate against Sheffield United. Throw that out, because first of all, United always kind of stink in the middle towards the end of January. Second of all, everybody, that's like the Tottenham match. Everyone was freaking awful that match.
Yeah.
Everyone, not just Martial.
Yeah.
But Martial was particularly bad. But in all the other matches,
Martial, he was only there for 20 odd minutes, Paul.
But in all the other matches, when Martial has played as a striker, he's been doing all the things off the ball that have been brilliant, that have been helping United. And then for some reason this year, Martial, who has always historically been a good finisher, for some reason, he's not finishing. And this game was the perfect example of that. I don't mind the header, because I thought that was a very difficult chance, because there was no pace to that ball. Yeah. But Martial's a good finisher. He is unbelievable at one-on-ones. When he breaks one-on-one in with the keeper, he's one of the best in the world. And that was the chance he got against City, and he still missed. And I was like, he's been
having those chances all season, Paulie, and not finished.
This has been his season. He's doing everything right, and he's playing brilliantly, but he's then getting chances and he's not scoring. And ultimately, you're the number 9, you're the striker. That's what we're going to judge you on.
Yeah, in a weird sort of way, his strength has become his weakness this season, which is really strange. But I think, some people in the comments there, thank you for all your great comments. People saying, look, Ollie's been committed to trying to help Martial find his form, and I think he has, Paulie. I think it's there. He has remained patient with it. He has given him chances. I think the ruthlessness of Ollie versus the ruthlessness of someone like Jose Mourinho is clear to me now. The difference is with Ollie, there's transparency there, Paulie. I think it's been outlined to the players. Look, this is a deal. You've got to give this for this shirt. If you don't, you don't play. Whereas I would argue, I don't know, because I don't work at the club and I've not seen it, but I would argue that some players would say maybe the communication wasn't there. Maybe there wasn't the same transparency. You can be in no doubt with Ole Gunnar Solskjaer what is expected of you on a baseline level. But Paulie, we are very late at getting to this.
I just want to expand on that. If we don't get to it, we don't get to it. I'm cool with that.
Carry on, mate. Carry on.
There's the other difference was with Mourinho. It always felt like if you made a mistake, you were not going to play again. And everybody played in fear of the mistake. And with Solskjaer, there are certain mistakes that he just won't forgive you for. But there's also the mistake of, okay, but I see what you're trying to do. And you didn't pull it off, but that's good. I want you to do that. Solskjaer is always, he went and signed Bruno Fernandes, who gives the ball away for a living, because that's what he does. He takes risks. He gives it away too much. Solskjaer has said that, but he doesn't want somebody who doesn't give it away at all. He said at the beginning of last season, during the first half of the season, we need to take more risks. It's okay if we lose the ball in the attacking third, because then we could just go and win it back. That's okay. Yeah. So there are also certain things that we know he doesn't tolerate. We saw that video leaked of him on the touchline last year in the League Cup against Manchester City, of him yelling at Lingard, Jesse, if you do that again, you're fucking off. And Lingard played like 4 more times last season. There are certain situations where he says, I've told you what you're doing wrong. I've told you what we need to do. I'm going to give you another chance to fix it. And I'm going to give you another chance to fix it. I'm going to give you another chance. But slowly, if you're not coming around, you fade out. A couple months ago, there was that video that went around of him doing that sit-down interview at Carrington, where he said, we talk to players on the squad. He says, I make a mental note when I see something, and I go, oh, you made that mistake. And if I see it again, And he goes, and then slowly if you're not going to fix that, slowly but surely, you're going to find yourself completely out of the squad. And Lingard, where's Phil Jones? Phil Jones has been you haven't heard of it from him.
No, he said players can't fake it anymore. That was the words that he used, wasn't it? But no longer can they blag it and try and maybe train well for 3 or 4 days in the week, and then when the game comes along, it looked terrible. I reckon that's what was going on with the likes of Jesse Lingard. He probably looked fantastic in training, to be fair, Paulie, week in, week out. I can see that, because I think he's I think he's the kind of player that would enjoy a knockabout, enjoy training where there's no pressure, there's no crowd. But then Ollie saw something completely different on a weekend, and he didn't have it. And I think there's other players like Andreas Pereira, maybe the same. He was probably a fantastic training ground player, but on a match day, just didn't replicate what he was doing in training. Diogo Dalot, probably another one. I can see, because you can see things in these players. You can see why you might think they would be good, and you can see why you might think they get selected. And the coach can only really go on what he sees in training, but the game can sometimes be different, can't it, Paulie?
We could see it now, because you said Diogo Dalot. Okay, well, Diogo Dalot was also, I could see it on the pitch. He was terrible. Yeah. He was good his first year, but I don't know if he was that good. I think he was good because we were used to Valencia and Ashley Young, and we were excited that he was neither of them. And now we're seeing it with Brandon Williams. Brandon Williams can't get a game. Brandon Williams, we wanted him to be really good last year at 19. He was solid defensively, but was terrible in the buildup. Yeah. And a lot of people said, I don't really think he's that good. And the counter argument was, okay, but he's 19, he's growing, he's developing. Don't hate on him. But some of this to me is, I don't think Brandon Williams can do it as a left back. I think his future is as a backup right back. Yeah. But some of it is, well, Luke Shaw, we weren't really thrilled with Luke Shaw at the start of last season, and he wasn't playing that well. And then it was Ashley Young came in because Shaw was hurt, and Williams was just not Ashley Young. And that might have helped, because this season, Aaron Wan-Bissaka can't get a minute off. Brandon Williams just doesn't even get to. So the trust there from Solskjaer is he's seeing something that says, I can't ask you to come in and play 90 minutes against freaking Real Sociedad. I can't even trust you to do that.
Yeah, so, I think it's a good point, because I think everything pointed towards Williams being more than good enough for one season at least to be backup right back cover for Wan-Bissaka. Everybody thought he'd benefit from the fact that he was playing on his better side, but if anything, he's not looked. I know the sample size is much smaller, but he's not looked as comfortable at right back as he has at left back, which is kind of strange for a right footer. But
probably because he's got Harry Maguire helping him out, and when he was at left back, he had Fred over there in the midfield helping him. Yeah. He played a lot. He played a lot at left wing back, which in United system is not really so much left wing back. It's really just left wing. And
he had Luke Shaw there.
Shaw was really playing left back to help him out. I want to bring up this comment from NZ. Bruno has 16 goals in the league so far, just one behind Salah. Mark is our next closest contributor with 9. The rest of our strike force has been underwhelming. Mason, Martial, one more problem this season. This is a testament to Ollie. Yeah. Is he getting the best out of these players? Okay, maybe not. But how much is that his fault versus not? It's not the debate that we're getting into right now. That's a debate for another day.
There's no doubt about it. It is a debate.
We're in second place. Bruno has been underwhelming, to say the least, in 2021. I pointed that out in January, and then in February, I pointed out how bad his January was. And February got off to a better start, but then fizzled. And March has been more of the same. Rashford has been not 100% in any way, shape, or form the last 6 weeks. He looks exhausted. He's injured. The whole story came out where he has the shoulder injury, and I was like, well, you rewatch that City game. It's clear he was carrying that ankle injury that he left with. He came into the match with it, and that's probably why there were countless opportunities for him to shoot the ball, and he didn't. And it was like, what are you doing, Marcus? Why didn't you do this? And it's probably because his ankle or his foot, not 100%. Martial, Mason aren't scoring. Cavani has been hit or miss, and yet we're in second place. That's a testament to the fact that you would have looked at this team and said, Martial scored 17 goals last year. Greenwood scored 10 in the league. Okay, can we get 17 and 10 again? Can one of them improve upon that? You would think if one of them fell a little bit, the other one would improve. And we're just nowhere near it. Mason is developing in other ways. He's doing a lot of other things that are good besides score, and he needs to become an all-around player. Yeah. So that he can, but he's not there yet. He is not good enough to start for this team week in, week out yet. And when you consistently ask him to start, you're going to drop points. Maybe in 2 years he is, But right now, no. But Martial has the yips. He can't finish. He's doing everything but finish, and yet we're still getting the goals, and we're in second. We're finding ways to get it done. It would be a lot easier if Martial just started scoring, and there's hope for that. I think he had like 8 goals last year going into lockdown, and he was injured for a large part of the season, but he came out of lockdown and started scoring left and right. So maybe he catches fire. Maybe he doesn't. I don't think we can keep playing like this if somebody else isn't doing any scoring, but it's a testament to that we're here when so many players just aren't finding the back of the net.
Yeah. Can I ask you, Pauly? Look, I've had a little think about this, and I'm just wondering if it's one of them unfortunate seasons for United in terms of, do you think there's a lot of players in this team, in this squad, that are they're having a season where they're trying to evolve their game, and there's probably too many of them evolving the game at the same time? So what I mean by that is Mason Greenwood last season, all we asked of him was to pick the ball up on the edge of the area, shoot, score goals. He's trying to add something else to his game now, which he needs to, as you've just touched on there. You've got, I think that someone like McTominay has probably realised that he's going to have to adapt his game slightly if he's going to have a long-term future in United midfield. He's probably going to have to offer more than just a shield to the back four. He's going to have to score goals, and we've seen that he's trying to do that this season. We've talked about Brandon Williams having to become a right back now instead of a left back. We're looking at Luke Shaw, who's obviously been asked to attack more and put more creativity into the box. Is this team, has it got a lot of individuals who are trying to probably change their game all at one time, and that's probably why we have this inconsistency? I even think that Rashford's trying to evolve his game as well. He's trying to become more of a provider. And it's just like, maybe if one of them had done this last season and then one did it this season and one did it, then it probably would benefit the team. But it's almost like so many individuals are trying to transition their game at the moment. That's
a really good question and a really good point. You're 100% right. You look at it, we've seen Fred is trying to get more expansive with his passing, and sometimes it doesn't work. A lot of times it doesn't work. Last year, we were able to pull out results when Fred came in, when it was Fred and Matic, because Fred just passed to Bruno, but now Bruno's being man-marked. So Fred's got to try to get a little bit more creative, and he's not good enough to do that. McTominay's passing has got to improve, and he's working on that. Wan-Bissaka's working on, getting forward and contributing more in there. Greenwood's trying to become more of this creator. That's ultimately the whole thing, is our team is full of either potential or just not there yet. Rashford is not the guy that put you on his back and carry you week after week. Yeah. He did that last season. He broke his back, but we didn't win more than 3 in a row. We didn't win 3 in a row. He's not that guy. Right now, we have one guy in our team that can do that, and you can't ask him to do that for an entire season. Rashford would be great if you put a big striker who's going to score 25 goals a season. If you put him up top, who doesn't always need the best service, is capable of creating shots on his own, you'll see Rashford blossom. On the other side, there's Mason Greenwood, who is a lot of potential. In 2 years, he could be a superstar. But right now, he's not. He's developing. He's working on that. But as the trade-off there's going to be inconsistency. There's going to be games where he just doesn't have it, and you drop points because of that. And because as McTominay is improving, it's still inconsistent, and it's still not where it needs to be a midfielder who starts week in, week out for a title-winning side. And Fred has his games where you go, how could we ever drop this guy? And then he has his games where you go, how the hell did we sign this guy?
This is my point. When they're all doing it, it just exemplifies the problem even more. That's why you'd like to stage their development. But it was clear that they all needed to make this development, and they're all keen to make it as quickly as they can, Pauly, because if they don't, like we said before, they won't have a career at Manchester United.
If you go back to those Ferguson sides, all right, so we did this with Rooney and Ronaldo. We had Van Nistelrooy, and we had Scholes and Keane and Giggs, and we had a lot of other players. And then those guys left, but now Rooney and Ronaldo were ready. And once they did that, now you have Nani coming in and Anderson, and they're finding their way, and Raphael. And while they're finding their way, you have guys to pick them up and be like, oh, I've got a 40-goal scorer. here. So it's okay that you're developing and whatever, because we've got guys that can carry us.
Yeah.
You're right. It just seems like there's too many right now. And it's not like we didn't know this. We knew this at the end of last season. We said, look, on our day, United can beat anybody, but they're not consistent enough to expect us to be on our day week in, week out. That's why we need depth, but we also need improvements to the starting 11. We need a better right winger. We ultimately tried to get Erling Haaland last January because we knew we do need a striker. Is it the priority? Maybe not, but it's needed. And what did we end up signing? We ended up signing a midfielder who has not caught on yet, which, okay, some players take a while. Let's not forget that he's 23 years old. He is moving to a new country that is in lockdown. So he, goes home every day and has nothing to do and just sits in an empty house. That's not easy on him.
Not the best for development now.
No, we signed an older striker who can come in, but he was not supposed to be the number 9, the first choice guy. He's supposed to be the backup who can fill a role, but he's old and he'll break down if you play him too often. Yeah. And we signed two wingers who aren't ready yet.
Yeah, no, exactly. But look,
we didn't actually improve the front of the team. It was all about people taking the next step, and every player has taken the next step in their development this season, which is a good thing. But none of them have made the leap. They've all improved by a level. None of them have made the leap up by 3 levels, which is what Jack Grealish is doing this year. And every superstar always goes, I improved by a level. And then at one point, there's a massive jump to the next level. None of our players have taken that leap this season.
I compare it to growing as an adult, Paulie. You grow gradually, and then eventually at some point you have what you call a growth spurt, don't you? And you just shoot up, and that's what happens. The same with plants, I guess, as well. Like, I'm not the best about flowers and nature, but I'm sure that they go through a similar sort of process. That's what his players are. Obviously, Paulie,
I'm assuming. I don't know anything. I'm just going to assume.
Yeah, Paulie, we haven't got time, obviously, to do what's on social media today. The only thing we were going to touch on is, maybe about fan negativity still, even after a win like that. Look, Paulie, let's not forget, we are still 11 points behind Man City. They will play at home again on Wednesday. I feel sorry for Southampton because I feel they're going to be on the end of a backlash, but, that'll probably go out to 14 points. Look, just because we beat City, can't think that the problems that existed before have all of a sudden gone. We know that they haven't. We will obviously, we've still got other things that we need to address, and I'm sure that the team will. Just want to give you the last chance, Paulie, because I have to be honest with you. I credit you for vehemently defending this player, but all season you have been waxing lyrical about, well, they're now calling him Shawberto Carlos. So we call him Luke Shaw or Shawberto Carlos. I'm not quite sure. We'll go with Luke Shaw, obviously. He's been fantastic, boy. You've talked a little bit about his goal now that comes out, so that's fine. I just want to give you the floor for the last couple of minutes just to say, obviously, kudos to you for everything you said about Luke Shaw. And again, he was fantastic, wasn't he, on Sunday?
He was sensational. And look, I did not think Luke Shaw had this in him. I didn't think Luke Shaw would be this good. My whole thing was I thought everybody was disrespecting him too much to say we need a left back that has to be the priority, in the transfer market. And I was like, we have to let's make things clear. We have a finite amount of money. We need to prioritize how we spend that money. And I don't think left back's a priority right now. I think we could get by on what Luke Shaw is providing with us and providing us. And if we want to spend a little money on a backup, that's fine. But Luke Shaw should not be the left back should not be the second or third priority that we have in the transfer market. We should look to address another need. And then next year, if Luke Shaw is not good this year and it becomes a problem, we'll spend the money next year. That was really my angle. Yeah. Luke Shaw was good enough. And then this year he has just been sensational.
Yeah, I think the only argument you could say even in hindsight, for a backup for Luke Shaw is obviously his injury record, isn't it?
The left footer. That was really it. I liked what we did with Tellez. He was cheap. He was good. We haven't overplayed him. I am a little bit afraid that Shaw's actually hurt now because 3 times during the match, the commentator was like, like Alex Tellez is about to come on, and I was like, well, Tellez will definitely play against AC Milan. I worry that he's going to play against West Ham too, because
yeah, what we could do, what we would give Pauly for that sort of a 4-0 second leg Thursday night this week, if you know what I mean. I wish we were going into this week now with the 4-0 lead and we could give the likes of
this is the home leg, so we need to win it.
Yeah, exactly. That's going to obviously influence team section. Pauly asked about, we got time for shout out to some people being suggesting Shaw for Player of the Year. I know it'd probably be your vote, Pauly. I think it'd be nice to see, I do think
they need to create an award called "If Bruno Fernandes Didn't Exist, These Would Be What the Awards Were."
Exactly. No doubt about it. You might even shout at the Premier League Player of the Year, let alone Manchester United Player of the Year. Thank you ever so much, Pauly, for your time. Thank you to everyone in the comments, and maybe some negativity on social media, but we've definitely not seen any of it in your comments. All of you are still really, really high on this result, same as I am. Let's hope that the team can carry this positivity into Thursday. Obviously, we won't be with you on Thursday for the happy hour because United are kicking off at 6 p.m. GMT. Nice little lunchtime kickoff for Pauly. Hopefully the weather's nice there and you can enjoy it outside with a nice cool beverage, Pauly. But we will be back with you next Tuesday, guys, for the United happy hour. Until then, take care and let's hope for a couple of United wins.